Chapter 2418, I'll Fight You. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Godbrandy. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Stand aside. You have no say in this matter. Sun Yun Shu waved her hand, pushing Ziyu aside. Fortunately, she restrained herself even though she was angry, and the push did not harm Ziyu. In the next moment, Sun Yun Shu arrived in front of Yang Kai once again, grabbing his collar and easily lifting him up, raising her head to meet his eyes as she sternly warned, "Are you trying to use our honored master's name to deceive us? If that's the case, you will die." Despite her fierce shout, there wasn't any murderous intent in her eyes, and her momentum was far weaker than before. She looked like someone who was outwardly strong but inwardly faint of heart. She obviously had no intention of killing Yang Kai, and her objective was simply to use the difference in strength between them to coerce him into telling her the truth. Yang Kai immediately saw through her thoughts, and did not resist, simply allowing her to do as she pleased, sneering as he taunted, "Go ahead and kill me then. What's stopping you?" Sun Yun Shu clenched her teeth, but she didn't seem to have any intention of killing him, instead just glaring madly. Seeing this, Yang Kai raised his hand and suddenly slapped her across the face. "Open your dog eyes and see what this is." Due to her unstable mood, Sun Yun Shu was caught off guard and directly received this slap from Yang Kai, staggering backwards a few steps. All the women at the scene turned pale, sweat appearing on their foreheads. Among the various junior and senior sisters, Sun Yun Shu was the one with the fiercest temperament. With her cultivation at the Second Order Emperor realm, she was more than qualified to be Ice Heart Valley's great elder, but just now, she was slapped in the face by a Third Order Dao Source realm cultivator, a young man on top of that. How would things end? All of them could already imagine Yang Kai getting beaten to death. And Ruo Yun's expression changed drastically as she tried her best to think of a way to calm her second junior sister and save Yang Kai. Regardless of why he was bold enough to slap an Emperor Realm Master, Ruo Yun hoped he could live as he had come here to save Ziyu, her disciple. Completely contrary to everyone's expectations, however, Sun Yun Shu didn't fly into a rage after getting hit. Instead, she stood there stunned, haltingly reaching her hand up to caress her cheek, finding something in her palm. It was a token, one that many present found familiar. It was a token they hadn't seen in 3,000 years. Martial Ancestors Token. Sun Yun Shu looked at the token in her hand, still in a daze, tears forming at the corners of her eyes as she stared at the Yun character engraved on the token. What? And Ruo Yun's face changed even more drastically this time as she flew over with all haste. Eldest senior sister, it's Master's Token. It's Martial Ancestors Token. Although Sun Yun Shu was now crying, a big smile had appeared on her face. She held the token and moved it in front of Ruo Yun as if to present it to her. As for Yang Kai slapping her, she had completely forgotten about it. At this time, she no longer had the bearing of an aloof Emperor Realm Master and seemed to have become a little girl who was joyfully celebrating finding a long-lost treasure. And Ruo Yun's tender body trembled as she picked up the token on Sun Yun Shu's palm and felt the familiar aura about it. She was also overwhelmed and her eyes too began to redden. The other Emperor Realm Masters of Ice Heart Valley also crowded around, staring at the token in a daze. Each of them was short of breath, as if they'd seen something inconceivable. On the other hand, after hearing the words Martial Ancestors Token, Yao Zhu realized that the situation was turning for the worst. The reason Seeking Passion sect could suppress Ice Heart Valley was because the latter's ancestral founder had been missing for the past 3,000 years. A master like Bing Yun would create waves wherever she went, and rumors would inevitably spread of her presence. However, there had been no news of her for the past 3,000 years. A lot of people started to believe that she had encountered some kind of disaster, and died a long time ago. Without Bing Yun, Ice Heart Valley was a toothless tiger, one that the Seeking Passion sect could bully as it wished. But now, that the ancestral founder's token had suddenly appeared here, didn't that mean Bing Yun hadn't died but was living in seclusion somewhere? If that was the case, Ice Heart Valley's strength would be a match for Seeking Passion sects, and whether or not Feng Shi and Ziyu's marriage could proceed as scheduled was highly uncertain. The wedding of the Seeking Passion sect's young sect master would take place in 2 days, and news of it had already spread throughout the entire Northern Territory, with the invitations having been sent out. Many masters had gathered in Ice Moon City and would come to Ice Heart Valley in 2 days to congratulate them. If the wedding didn't proceed as planned, Seeking Passion sect's face would be completely lost. And the cause of all this trouble was this young man who had appeared out of nowhere. If this brat hadn't casually taken out this token, none of this would have happened. Considering all this, Yao Zhu concluded that it wasn't the time to let Feng Shi personally kill Yang Kai to purge his heart demon. The best course of action was to kill Yang Kai immediately, and then let Feng Shi and Ziyu consummate their marriage tonight. At that time, even if Bing Yun really came back, there would be nothing she could do. Thinking so, Yao Zhu shouted, "Enough of this nonsense. I suspect he simply picked up that thing and is now trying to pass it off as your ancestral founder's token. None of you should be deceived by him. If your noble sect's ancestral founder was still alive, she would have come here in person. Why would she send some little brat in the Dao Source realm instead of appearing herself?" Hearing his words, all the women from Ice Heart Valley calmed down. Seeing the long-lost ancestral founder's token, they were so excited that they became muddle-headed, but now, they felt that Yao Zhuo's words made sense. If Bing Yun was alive, why didn't she come here personally? She was Ice Heart Valley's founder, and among the dozen or so Emperor Realm Masters here, around half were her disciples. What stopped her from coming here? As long as she came here in person, there wouldn't be any need for the ancestral founder's token. Yang Kai, a Dao Source realm cultivator, suddenly showed up with the token, claiming that he was here on Bing Yun's order to take Ziyu away. However, the token alone wasn't enough to prove that he was telling the truth. Perhaps he simply found it somewhere. And Ruo Yun paled as she looked at Yang Kai and asked, "Little brother, tell me truthfully, who gave you this token? Where did you obtain it?" When asking these questions, she was very anxious, afraid that Yang Kai would tell her something she didn't want to hear. There had been no news of her master for the past 3,000 years, but there was no concrete proof of her death either. If Yang Kai had found this token somewhere, it meant that her master had died, and this was something she wasn't willing to accept. She had acted as Ice Heart Valley's Valley Master for 3,000 years, and while she didn't achieve much, she didn't make too many mistakes, either. The only true disappointment she had was not being able to protect her disciple. What allowed her to persevere for so long though was the belief that her master would one day return. At that time, she hoped to hand over a still intact Ice Heart Valley to Bing Yun. She didn't want to be praised, but to have some peace of mind as she'd done her best to protect what her master had left behind. If Yang Kai told her that her master had died, she would definitely collapse. "If you dare to lie, I'll make you wish you were dead." Sun Yun Shu wasn't as gentle as in Ruo Yun. When she opened her mouth, only threats came out. Her beautiful eyes stared at Yang Kai, trying to catch all the changes in his expression. Yang Kai said with a cold expression, "If I said that it was Senior Bing Yun who gave it to me, would you believe me?" And Ruo Yun immediately relaxed and hurriedly nodded, "Yes, I believe you." Sun Yun Shu slumped as if she'd lost all of her strength. A huge weight was lifted off her chest, and her eyes, which were staring at Yang Kai, were no longer fierce. The others were also covered in sweat, just as if they'd fought a great battle. Although they weren't sure if Yang Kai was telling the truth, they had some hope at least. "You women are all too naive. He's obviously lying. This king will make him spit out the truth," Yao Zhu said sternly and released his emperor pressure while raising his hand and palming towards Yang Kai. His murderous intent was soaring. It was clear that he had no intention of making Yang Kai spit out the truth, he simply wanted to kill him. "Old dog, you only know how to bully the weak. Shameless." Yang Kai's bones were creaking as his pupils slightly shrunk. In that instant, he tried to teleport away to dodge the incoming attack. However, the emperor pressure of a second-order master turned out to be too strong and it solidified the space around him, causing his movements to become stiff. Yang Kai felt as if he'd fallen into a quagmire, and despite using all his strength, he was only able to slightly move, nowhere near enough to dodge the attack. His eyes froze as he felt the aura of death blow across his face. At this moment, the Emperor Realm Masters of Ice Heart Valley were still in a daze and had yet to recover. None of them had expected that a master like Yao Zhu would suddenly try to kill Yang Kai. When Ruo Yun and Sun Yun Shu realized what was happening, it was already too late to save Yang Kai. They could only watch as Yao Zhuo's palm shot toward him. "Stop!" And Ruo Yun shouted, flicking her sleeve, summoning an artifact that looked like a ribbon made of white silk as she shot it towards Yao Zhu. "If you dare to injure him, I'll make you die without a burial." Sun Yun Shu was even more direct, summoning her sword and slashing it at Yao Zhu. In the next moment, the other Emperor Realm Masters all took action, displaying their secret techniques or summoning their artifacts to attack Yao Zhu. In the blink of an eye, the scene became extremely chaotic as ice principles filled the air, sealing the entire world in ice. Facing all these attacks, Yao Zhu didn't relent, however, instead, he became even more determined to kill Yang Kai. Yang Kai realized that the masters from Ice Heart Valley had no way to save him. Yao Zhu would reach him before they could, and even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. At this critical moment, he gritted his teeth and summoned a small bead into his hand. With great effort and a pale face, he poured his source chi into this bead to activate it and ruthlessly threw it towards Yao Zhu, shouting, "Old dog, I'll fight you."